Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. I'm Ahmad of Atsaqofi from SMAN Tuban. Honorable Chair, respected judges, and members of the House. Today, we propose the motion this House would give social service and skill training for gambling offenders rather than imprisonment. This logically shows why rehabilitation works better. Prison traps people in the same cycle, while training breaks that cycle. First, let me define the key terms. Gambling offenders here mean people who break gambling laws. For example, running illegal gambling or repeatedly committing gambling-related crimes. Social service and skill learning means two things: compulsory community service to give back to society, and education or vocational training to help offenders find stable work. Rather than imprisonment means replacing prison sentences with this model as the main form of punishment. Now the framework. The most important question in this debate is what is the best way to deal with gambling offenders so they do not re-offend and society benefits in the long run. We focus on rehabilitation versus punishment. This is the fairest and most meaningful ground for debate because both sides ultimately want fewer crimes and safer communities. The mechanism is simple. Imprisonment punishes people but does not fix the reasons why they gamble illegally. For social service and skill training does fix those reasons by teaching responsibility and providing real alternatives. That is the foundation of our case. The core argument is that rehabilitation is more effective than punishment. I'll get into my first analysis, which is the core claim that our side of the House believes in. Sending gambling offenders to prison does not stop the cycle of crime, but giving them social service and skill training does. Now this brings me to my second analysis on logical reasoning. Why? Because most gambling crimes are driven by two things: addiction and lack of stable income. Prison does nothing to cure addiction or provide jobs. In fact, it often makes things worse. Offenders leave prison with no new skills, but with a criminal record that makes employment harder. By contrast, skill training gives them a way out: new qualifications, new income, and new purpose. Social service also creates discipline and accountability, which brings me to my third analysis. Imagine someone who is unemployed and addicted to gambling. They commit a gambling offense because they see it as the only way to make quick money. And we send this person to prison, what happens? They lose time, gain a criminal record, and come out with even fewer chances to find a job. Their financial stress is worse, so the temptation to gamble again is even higher. If instead we give them skill training, for example, training in carpentry, computer repair, or hospitality, they leave with a marketable skill. Alongside this, community service teaches them responsibility and discipline. Now, they have a real chance to earn money legally, which removes the reason why they turn to illegal gambling in the first place. Now, not only do we have a logical example, but we also present a real-world example. We see this in countries like Norway, where rehabilitative justice has reduced repeat offending rates dramatically, when offenders are supported with training and counseling. Fewer return to crime compared to those who go to prison. And I'll get into my fourth analysis, which explains principles of justice and fairness. Justice should fit the crime. Gambling is not a violent act. Locking someone up with violent criminals for a non-violent offense is unfair and excessive. Rehabilitation respects justice by punishing offenders through community service while also helping them rebuild their lives. Imagine the consequences here. Short-term, opponents might argue prison is tougher and deters crime. But in reality, people addicted to gambling rarely think rationally about prison when they commit offenses. But long-term, rehabilitation reduces reoffending, saves taxpayers the cost of prison, and turns offenders into productive citizens. This is better for society than paying to keep people locked away only to see them commit crimes again. Now that brings me to my final analysis: why this outweighs the opposition. The opposition will say, prison protects society, but gambling offenders are not violent threats. Real protection comes from solving problems so they don't commit offenses again. They might also say prison deters others. But addiction-driven crimes don't stop because of fear. They stop when people are given better options. Rehabilitation, therefore, is more principled and more practical. Judges, this debate is not being soft versus tough. It is about being smart versus ineffective. Prison looks tough but creates long-term failure. Rehabilitation looks different but it delivers real safety and justice. So I urge you, choose the model that actually works, choose futures that build on skills, not cells. Choose the proposition.